Hey there, 8th graders. Welcome to today's Explainer. If you're joining me today, it means you're gearing up to tackle week 28 of your curriculum, and I am absolutely thrilled to be your guide. Now, right off the bat, I want you to kind of completely change how you look at yourself. You are no longer just students staring at a blank piece of paper, just hoping for some random inspiration to strike. Today, you're architects. You are literally builders. And over the next few minutes, we're going to learn the absolute blueprint for constructing great writing. As you'll see, moving from a blank page to a polished masterpiece, well, it isn't about magic, it's about following a super reliable, orderly roadmap.
So here is our roadmap for today. First up, the blueprint of great writing. Second, getting ideas on paper. Third, shaping and polishing. Fourth, sharing your masterpiece. And finally, education with biblical morality.
All right, let's dive right into this. Section 1, the blueprint of great writing.
You know, the absolute biggest myth out there is that great writers just, open their laptops and perfect sentences magically flow out. No way. That is completely false. Great writing is built step by step. 1 Corinthians 14:40 anchors this whole concept for us, saying, "Let all things be done decently and in order." God values order, right? Just like you obviously can't build a roof before pouring the foundation, applying this principle of divine order to your writing prevents a ton of confusion and helps you create something incredibly strong.
So, what does this actually mean for you? Why does it matter? Well, when you understand the writing process, you can approach literally any writing task with total confidence. Skipping steps, that just leads to writing that doesn't clearly communicate your awesome ideas. But following this process gives you a really reliable, repeatable way to organize your thoughts and strengthen your voice so your reader actually gets what you're saying. And guys, this isn't just about getting a good grade on a middle school essay. This is a real-life skill. Whether you're writing a fun short story, sending a respectful email to a mentor, or eventually drafting a cover letter for your absolute dream job, this process ensures your writing is the best it can possibly be.
So here they are. This brilliantly illustrates the 5 mandatory stages of our writing process: pre-writing, drafting, revising, editing, and publishing. Memorize these 5 steps. Seriously, internalize them. If you follow this specific sequence, you can confidently tackle any assignment that comes your way. Moving right along to Section 2, getting ideas on paper.
Okay, so this covers the first 2 steps of our process, and let me tell you, this is for sure the most high-energy, messy, and creative phase of building our essay house. We kick things off with pre-writing. This is where you lay the absolute foundation by brainstorming and planning. And you've got several tools you can use here. You can just jot down rapid-fire ideas, make a graphic organizer, or sketch out an outline. Pre-writing is basically your safe space to just let your brain explore without any strict rules holding you back.
Let me paint a vivid picture of how this actually looks. Imagine you're asked to write an essay about your favorite season. A brilliantly simple pre-writing tool is a web diagram. You just draw a circle right in the center of your page and write summer. Then, from that center circle, you draw branches out to new circles: beach trips, family BBQs, longer days. Boom. Just like that, before you've even written a single formal sentence, you have beautifully focused your content. You know exactly what your paragraphs are going to be about.
Once that foundation is poured, we move straight into drafting. This is where you take that web diagram or outline and turn it into actual sentences and paragraphs. But listen to me very carefully on this next point. Do not worry about perfection. Seriously, the drafting phase is just about getting your raw ideas down onto the paper. Think of it like throwing up the wooden framing of our house. It doesn't look pretty yet, the wires are all showing, but the structure is there. Just get the words out. Let's intentionally slow our pace down now for Section 3, shaping and polishing.
All right, so we're done throwing up the rough walls, and now we're carefully painting the trim. The absolutely crucial point here is understanding the difference between our next 2 steps, because this is a super common pitfall for 8th graders. You've got to draw a hard line between revising and editing. They are not the same thing. Revising is all about making big, structural improvements. It's changing the order of your sentences, adding rich details, and just making your ideas way clearer. Editing, on the other hand, well, that's strictly surface level. It's fixing grammar, checking punctuation, correcting spelling, formatting, that kind of stuff. Think of it this way. Revising is moving walls. Editing is sweeping the floors.
Let's look at a classic revising move. Imagine you're reading your newly drafted short story out loud, and suddenly you realize there is a huge problem. Your main character completely disappears halfway through the plot. Fixing a gap like that requires you to rewrite 2 whole scenes. That's a massive structural change, right? That is revising. You're making sure the ideas and the actual story work.
Now contrast that big change with this editing example. You're reading through your story and you notice you spelled there, T-H-E-I-R, incorrectly as theer, T-H-I-E-R. Fixing that little spelling mistake doesn't change the plot at all. It doesn't change your characters. It's literally just polishing the mechanics before submission. That is editing. Remember, always revise for the big picture first, then edit for that final polish.
And that brings us to Section 4, sharing your masterpiece.
So you've planned, drafted, reshaped, and polished. The house is built, the paint is completely dry, and it is finally time to hand over the keys. The final step is publishing. And really, this is simply the act of sharing your polished work with an audience. It definitely doesn't mean you have to print a hardcover book. Publishing could be as simple as just turning it in to your teacher for a grade. It could mean standing up in class and reading it aloud to your friends. Or maybe it's submitting it to be posted in a school publication. The whole point is, your orderly work is now ready for the world to see.
All right, let's do a really quick knowledge check based on your homework. I'm going to ask the question, and I want you to answer it in your head before I give it away. Ready? First up, what are the 5 steps of the writing process in order? Think about it. Okay, they are pre-writing, drafting, revising, editing, and publishing. Excellent. Next, which step focuses strictly on fixing grammar and punctuation? Got it? Yep, it's editing. That's our surface polish.
Let's keep that momentum going. Name one tool you can use in the pre-writing stage to organize your ideas. You could use a web diagram, an outline, or just rapidly jot down ideas. Okay, how is revising different from editing? Remember the house analogy? Revising is making big structural improvements to ideas and clarity, while editing is strictly fixing mechanical errors like spelling. And finally, give one way to publish your work in school. Simply handing it in to your teacher counts perfectly. Great job on those.
Let's wrap things up with Section 5, Education with Biblical Morality.
You know, here at Heroes Smart Academy, we don't just want you to be good writers, we want you to be wise individuals. We deliberately intertwine biblical morality with your education for a very specific reason. Education without morality will hurt. I want you to ask yourself a somewhat provocative question right now. What is the actual point of being incredibly smart, knowing all 5 steps of the writing process, and being highly educated if you just use that intelligence to keep making bad life choices that cause pain to yourself and others? Think about it. Knowledge without a moral compass is exactly like a beautifully built house sitting on a totally toxic foundation. It simply won't stand.
And this right here is exactly why we do what we do. Romans 8:6-7 promises true peace of mind to everyone who keeps their mind spiritual. That is our experience, and it's absolutely what we see as people engage with our curriculum. When education and biblical morality walk hand in hand, you don't just get a good grade, you get a good life. You build a mind that is both brilliant and at total peace. So as you go forth this week to build your essays with decency and order, ask yourself, how are you building the rest of your life? Until next time, keep learning, keep building, and stay inspired.